Welcome, everybody. This is the very first episode of Bucks Takes, where we dig into politics, life experiences, and the real issues that are affecting veterans and youth. I'm Tristan. I'm your host. I'm a veteran, a proud Trump supporter, and someone who's lived the ups and downs of life both in the U.S. and the Philippines. So today we're going to set the stage for what you can expect from this podcast while diving into our main topics like political talk, life in the Philippines, veteran struggles, as well as the heavy topic of suicide prevention. So, let's get started. All right. Now, let's start with the politics side. I know some of you might already know where I stand. Yes, I'm a Trump supporter, but this isn't about rallying behind a name. It's about what Trump's politics and policies stand for. Strong borders, the importance of free speech, protecting the Second Amendment, and ensuring that America stays true to its founding values. We'll break down the current political climate. While these policies matter to not just Republicans, but to anyone who believes in a freer, stronger nation, and what we can learn from Trump's recent public addresses and actions. We'll discuss how these policies affect everyday people, including veterans like myself. So I'm very open-minded. I can listen to all sorts of sides and angles and policies and viewpoints of everything. And I'm going to kind of use this podcast to kind of be as unbiased as possible. Um, it's it's hard to do all the time because we all have our own biases, but again, I'm very open-minded and willing to listen to what other people have to say and different viewpoints. And I'll try to take that into consideration as I'm giving you guys these topics and these political segments. I'll try to see both sides of everything as well. The big thing, obviously, that comes to everybody's mind right now is Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday is coming up this coming Tuesday. It's everybody goes out and votes, and then hopefully sometime Tuesday evening we know who the president's going to be, or maybe into Wednesday morning. It seems to always take a little bit longer, but we should have a good idea sometime beginning of next week of who our next president is going to be, whether that be Kamala Harris or President Trump. For me, here in Missouri, we have early voting available. So I went out and voted yesterday. Yes, I went and voted for Trump. But like I've said, I'm voting for him for the policies that he stands for the politics he stands for, the policies he's enacted, and just his track record in general. If you look at his first 4 years in office, you know, he had the best economy we ever had, lowest gas prices, strong borders, no wars were ever initiated or started. We didn't lose any American lives to war or anything like that. We actually had a leader that other countries' leaders feared. Um, we didn't see any strong or any bold actions from North Korea, Putin in Germany. I'm sorry, Germany and Russia. Sorry. He kind of stayed in his place. He kind of stayed where he was at. He never did anything. Him and Trump seemed to have some sort of an understanding. Now people take that as Russian hoax and all of that. That's how he won. That's all false. I mean, you look at the Steele dossier, which started that whole Russian collusion and Russian hoax. All that was proven to be false. It was all concocted by Hillary Clinton and the whole inside organization, intelligence community that started all of that. And it's all come out. It's all been proven. Just like this whole Hunter Biden's laptop situation, it was all thrown under the rug. Nothing happened. Da 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 da. They're just trying to distract you. And now it's all come out that it's all true. So I stand by him because I believe in what he can do. I believe what he can do to our economy. And just listening to the rallies and interviews that he has had over the past couple of weeks, to include the interview he did with Joe Rogan on his podcast. He talks about how his first 4 years in office, he didn't know what to expect. His first time in, kind of in a new situation, trusted the wrong people, didn't know what to expect and how the game was played, but he knows now. Now you got people like RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, both Democrats, but they're voting for Trump. They're on Trump's ticket. You got J.D. Vance, who's seemed so far to be a pretty good vice president candidate. We'll kind of see where that goes. Trump's first vice president candidate, first time he was in, didn't turn out to be the greatest, right? He kind of was Mike Pence. He was more laid back. He was a very conservative Christian values, and I believe he really disliked Trump. But Trump, I think, put him on the ticket because he was kind of told that's what he needed to do by the staff that he had around him at the time. This time around, though, I think J.D. Vance is going to be a more solid candidate for a vice president. He's going to be more of a ally to Trump, I believe. He's more outspoken. He's very intelligent with the way he talks. Again, he's a more down-to-earth individual. I believe he did a podcast with Joe Rogan as well. Or maybe it wasn't Joe. No, I think it was, he might have done one with Joe Rogan. I don't think that was the one I listened to. Tucker Carlson. He did it with Tucker Carlson first. And again, a great interview, very well spoken, very intelligent individual, and has his own viewpoints and his way of looking at things. And I think he'll do great. RFK, he went on Joe Rogan's podcast and did an interview with Joe Rogan. Again, RFK, very outspoken individual. He's being criticized by his family because, they're a lifelong Democrat, but he's going for Trump. And, his family is very outspoken with that and has let him know that they don't agree with the direction he's going. But, you look at the track history of RFK, going from trying to figure out environmental issues with like the pollution of the river up in the New York area. I forget the name of the river. I don't think it was the Hudson. It might have been. He went, tracked all that down, found out who was dumping all this waste and garbage in the rivers, was able to get it litigated and all that to where he's at now, which is, he's not anti-vax, but, he has a vaccine related damage to his vocals. That was all because of a vaccine. But he's real big into this, the food epidemic that the FDA and all that got going on right now within the U.S. Simple things like Fruity Pebbles, or you buy those here, you get them, they're nice and colored, everybody remembers them. You have all these additives, these dyes that are thrown into it. Again, I'm no freaking genius on this, so I would have to look it up to find out exactly what it all is. But the point being is, if you go to other countries like the UK or Canada or anything like that, they sell the same Fruity Pebbles, but they're not the same colors. They're because they have restrictions in those countries about what can be added to food. So same company sells the same cereal, but has to make it differently for other countries than it does with our country. And that's what's causing a lot of the issues, like the increase in diabetes, the increase in child obesity, as well as regular obesity, just immune issues with people. and just the overall health of everybody. And I know I can attest to um, just the difference in food quality. My time living abroad when I was in the military, I spent 3 years um, in South Korea, and when I got out of the military, I spent a total of about 6 months over the last 3 years or so now uh, in the Philippines. And just my wife's from the Philippines. I'm married. We're working on trying to get her a visa to come here. That's a whole process in and of itself. We'll get into that another time. But, I've just seen the difference in food overseas compared to what it is here. Um, and some of it's better, some of it's not. Obviously, they add so much sugar and additives into food nowadays here in the US that make it more addicting and taste better and all that. So there's some stuff like if you have Cheetos here versus in the Philippines, versus Korea, uh, the Cheetos here are a lot more yellowish orange. They put way more additives in there to make it taste better. You go to Korea and you get Cheetos there, it's more of a whitish color because they're not allowed to put as much additives and all the dyes and all that shit in there. The chicken's just better overall. And a lot of the food is better overall. It's better for you. Um, and, every time I go to the Philippines, I lose at least 20 pounds right off the bat just because the food is better. Now, granted, I don't eat the best here. I'm not the greatest of cooks. My wife's the cook. Of course, she's in the Philippines, so she does a lot of cooking, but we also travel a lot when I'm in the Philippines. And so when I go there, we travel a lot. So there's not a whole lot of time to just really cook every day. So we eat out a lot and we eat street food and all that. But even the street food, like it's just way better for you than what it is here. Um, so yeah, that's what I've got to say about politics. Again, we'll that segment will be mainly towards the latest news. We'll keep everybody updated. I'm not sure how many of these I'm gonna do. If I'm gonna do like a daily brief or daily update, or if I'll do like a weekly brief. I haven't figured that out yet, but we'll give this a try and we'll see how it goes. Uh, Now, I know politics in general can be a hot topic. So we're going to kind of shift gears for a moment. For those who've been following my journey, I've got a TikTok channel called The Booker Family. Um, Not very many people probably know about it. I'm not famous. I'm not a influencer or anything like that. But if you've been following my journey, you know that I spent a significant amount of time in the Philippines. Living abroad, especially in a place so different from the U.S., can definitely give you a unique perspective on life, culture, as well as what freedom really means, right? So let's talk about life in the Philippines, or life, abroad, in general. So living in the Philippines, for instance, is just an extended vacation. It's a lifestyle change. I'll talk about my experience from navigating the rich culture, friendly communities, and the beautiful landscapes, to dealing with the challenges of living in a developing country. This section will cover tips for anyone considering visiting or moving there, such as, what to expect in daily life, the cost of living, and, how it contrasts with life back in the States. Plus, I'll share stories that show the heart and resilience of the people there and what lessons Americans can learn from them. Uh, the Philippines is a very cultural country, culturally rich, full of fun, very nice, uh, a nice country, nice community, nice people. Uh, you don't really run into a lot of the rudeness like you do here in the States. And of course, it all depends on where you're at in the US. If you're in a small town versus big city, that makes a big difference. And, you still have some of that in the Philippines. I'm not saying there aren't rude people, there aren't disrespectful people, but in general, my same experience with being in South Korea for the 3 years that I was there while in the army. Uh, South Korea was great. The culture was great. The people were great. They're very respectful. Um, they use their manners. But then again, it's same thing. Like you go into Seoul and you go to like the big city of Seoul in South Korea, and everybody's on their cell phones. Whether you're on the subway, whether you're walking around town, it don't matter. Everybody's looking down, kind of like New York City. You'll bump into people, but majority of the time, the people, even if you bump into them, they're nice about it. They will apologize. They're not going to be rude. But there will be still some of that. It's just, I think it's a cultural thing that happens in bigger cities. The more congested a population is, the more uh less time for bullshit, I guess, you have, and so the more uh rude you become. But so far, my experience, whether big city or not, overall Asian culture has been great. They're very respectful culture, whether you're in the Philippines or whether you're in Korea. I've heard the same thing about Japan, haven't gone but still want to go. I've heard the same thing about Thailand, but I've also heard that Thailand, uh, they could be kind of rude there too. But just all about your perspective and how you go into it and what you do and how you do it. If you're a very kind individual yourself and very respectful yourself, more likely than not, you're going to run into that same kind of attitude being given back to you. But if you're very rude, disrespectful, you're going to get that kind of attitude thrown back at you as well. So we'll kind of wrap all of that up and talk about all of that within that segment. Our next segment will kind of go into veteran issues and challenges. So as a veteran, I've seen firsthand how difficult it could be to transition from military to civilian life. The struggles don't end when your service does. From accessing quality health care to finding a sense of purpose, post-service, the challenges are real. I want to use this platform to not only share my experiences, but to connect with others out there who may feel alone or misunderstood. We'll talk about resources available, as well as the support systems that work, and the ones that need improvement. We all know that there's improvements that can be made out there, one being the VA. In my experience, the VA, for the most part, has been pretty good for me in my area, but I know a lot of veterans where the VA sucks, just trying to get appointments, trying to get seen. It just takes forever. Um, in my experience with the VA, anytime I needed to get an appointment, talk to my primary care, anything along those lines, I've gotten in right away. I've been treated with nothing but respect. I've gotten help I needed for everything I needed for. The only thing I would say my VA is kind of lacking is just in my area, there is no vision or dental doctors available. So if I needed to get glasses through the VA or do dental or whatever, I would have to drive like 2.5 hours to go do that. Not too big of a deal, but when you got to do that once a year, it gets a little painful. I'm lucky enough to where I've got insurance through my job now, where I can use that insurance so I can get vision and dental and all that locally without needing to drive 2.5 hours. But, if I was without a job and I needed it, that would be available to me. Next, we're going to go into a topic that's kind of heavy, but is necessary. We're going to talk about veteran suicide, and even suicide among the youth of today. The only reason people kind of ignore um, suicide among the youth is something we can't afford to ignore. The reason why I kind of throw that in there with veteran suicide is because, veteran suicide, as we all know, we've all heard the stats, 22 a day. It's more than that, even though I checked the VA's website and their latest statistics is like it's 16 or 18 a day is what they're saying as of, I think, last year. But that's just of what's been reported, right? There's a lot of suicide that happen or even attempted suicide uh, that doesn't get reported among veterans. And then that doesn't even count for those that take their lives while in the service. That's just for after the fact. So we gotta keep that in mind as well. Um, but then just talk about youth suicide. This is something that just recently hit home to me like uh very hard. My daughter, who's 11, um, just wrote a suicide note last week, or no, yeah, last week. Um, she wrote it in her notebook. Notebook fell out of a backpack or locker or something onto the ground. Teacher found a notebook, opened it up to see whose book it was, found the letter in it, immediately handed it over to the counselor. They called my ex-wife, which was where my daughter's living right now, um, to tell her everything that's happened. My daughter admitted that, she's cut herself before. She's been being bullied at school by a couple girls because she's overweight. Just it hit real home to me really bad because, as a veteran, that suffers from mental health and suffers from anxiety and depression and stuff like that. Uh, you know, the only thing keeping me going is the fact that I need to be there for my kids and I need to be there for my wife. Um, that's what's keeping me going. That's my North Star. That's what keeps me guided and grounded in this life and going through all the ups and downs and the struggles and all of that. But to hear my kid want to do that, find out that my daughter wants to commit suicide because she thinks she can't handle or deal with the struggles and the pain that she's going through right now, just it hurts. It hurts real bad. And so we're gonna just keep bringing awareness to this. Find out what other kids are going through. And try to find stories and topics around this subject and statistics and stuff like that to try to bring more awareness to it. Um, it's a topic that, like I said, is close to my heart. I want this podcast to be a safe space for addressing hard truths, whether it's the reasons behind this crisis or ways to make a difference. We'll discuss warning signs, support networks, and proactive steps that we can take to help someone who might be struggling. Uh, Remember, no one is ever truly alone. We're also we're all also share stories of hope. We'll share stories of resilience because these are the voices that need to be heard the most. Uh, Talk about something that's helped me kind of get through, and it kind of ties into the transition from military life to civilian life. But something that's helped me is just you know when you come from military life to civilian life, you lose uh you lose that camaraderie, that kinship, that brotherhood, sisterhood that you have in the military. You're in the military, you're all suffering, you're all going through the same things, some more than others, but at the end of the day, you have your brother and sisters back to your left and your right. Uh, and you're always there. You always got each other's six. But when you get out, it's more about individual goals than personal, and then team goals. A lot of the military is built around teamwork, and working as a platoon, as a as a squad, as a company, as a battalion, as a brigade, um, as a division. But when you get out, it's more about you and you alone. And then you lose that. You try to find it in the workplace, but you don't have like, you get out and you have that sick sense of humor and jokes that, you and your buddies in the military would find funny, but, they find it dark and insensitive and all that in the civilian world. Uh, but then just trying to find something that can fill that void, that camaraderie void. Something that I've done is I found this community on TikTok. This guy, Sean Launius, or Launius, I don't know I forgot his last name. I think that's it. He's called himself the Veteran Guy. He has an organization called Vet Life for Life. It's a nonprofit organization. He also now has another organization that's an LLC that's called Veterans in Recovery. And he brings awareness to and awards people for those who are in recovery or want to go to recovery. And so they help raise money to send people to recovery, as well as give people a certificate for those who have been, 1 year sober, 1 year out of recovery, because getting recovery and staying in recovery is just as important as getting the help you need. And so I think like he says, what often goes unlooked is those that have taken that action, that taken that step to go and get the help they need to stay sober, whether it's from pills, alcohol, doesn't matter. Stay sober and change their life for the better. And so they're being able to sustain that, whether it's 60 days, whether it's 12 months, whether it's 5 years, 10 years. He brings awareness to it by giving out a certificate. So he raises money by selling merchandise, doing fundraisers and stuff like that to raise money to help send out these certificates to people, to help remind them, keep doing a good job. You do not go unnoticed. But that community as a whole that he has, we've got our own Discord channel. He's got his TikTok we follow. There's a bunch of other veteran organizations that they have within that one organization that has brought everybody together. And so we follow them now. It's great to be able to have that community again, that you can go and you can talk shit to people about. They know what you're talking about, right? They're not going to take offense to it or anything like that. So just being able to find something along that line to help ground you as you transition out, as well as to help have people to talk to for, like, if you're depressed or going through something, you have people that you can talk to that know what you're going through, that can help you. So we're gonna bring those stories and those testimonies for those that need to be heard, right? With that being said, this will conclude my first episode. Thank you for tuning in to the inaugural episode of Buck's Take. Like I said, we've only scratched the surface a little bit of what's to come. If today's episode, though, resounded with you, please subscribe, share, reach out with your thoughts and stories. Leave your comments, reach out. I'll bring them up in the episodes. We'll talk about it. And we'll go from there. And just remember, this podcast is not just about me. It's about us, our shared experience, and lifting each other up. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay strong, as well as keep the conversation going. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Later.